Good afternoon, everyone. You are very welcome to the SunSmart for Outdoor Workers webinar. The panel will be delighted to receive any questions you may have. Please use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your PC or laptop screen. If you're using any other digital device, you will find this located in the More options, usually identified by 3 dots. Now, without further ado, I will hand you over to your host for today, Dr. Breda Neville. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's SunSmart for Outdoor Workers webinar. So outdoor workers are routinely exposed to high levels of UV radiation that can cause skin cancer. In fact, they can be exposed to between 2 and 3 times more UV radiation than indoor workers, putting them at significantly increased risk. And as a result, outdoor workers have been identified in the National Skin Cancer Prevention Plan 2023 to 2026 as a high-risk group. The aim of today's webinar is to highlight the importance of UV protection in the workplace for outdoor workers, educate employers and employees on the importance of multi-component approaches to UV protection in the workplace, provide real-life examples of the most effective and time-efficient approaches to integrating safe UV practices into workplaces, and provide best practice insights into how sustained change can be achieved. We hope that you find today's webinar informative and that you learn how to adopt comprehensive approaches to occupational sun protection, which effectively increase outdoor workers' use of sun protection and in turn reduce skin cancer rates in the outdoor worker sector. We have a great lineup of speakers today and we'll have a panel discussion at the end for about 20 minutes. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask of the presenters, please send them in via the chat and we'll aim to answer them during the panel discussion. Just to note that we cannot answer individual medical questions or give individual medical advice. This webinar is being recorded and a link will be sent out afterwards so that you can watch it back. And at the end of today's webinar, we will be circulating a short survey for you to complete. And we would really appreciate if you could take a minute to give us your feedback. Our first speaker is Dr. Siobhan Rafferty. Dr. Rafferty is a dermatology specialist registrar working in St. Vincent's University Hospital. She graduated from University College Cork School of Medicine in 2016 and has a Master's in Medical Education from the University of Dundee. Dr. Rafferty has 4 years of experience working in the Skin Cancer Service in Ireland. She's a member of the NCCP Skin Cancer Prevention Implementation Group and sits on the Outdoor Worker Working Group. So now I'm going to hand you over to Dr. Rafferty, who's going to speak about the importance of sun protection for outdoor workers.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Siobhan Rafferty. I'm a specialist registrar doctor in dermatology working in St. Vincent's University Hospital, and I'm delighted to be here this afternoon to speak about skin cancer in outdoor workers. So over the next 10 minutes, we want to explore why outdoor workers are at risk of skin cancer, and what we as dermatologists see in outdoor workers attending the dermatology clinic. That is, where outdoor workers are most likely to get skin cancers and what signs and symptoms to look out for. Finally, we'll look at sun protection behaviours that all outdoor workers should adopt in their practice. So to start, let's talk about skin cancer risk in outdoor workers. So ultraviolet radiation is a major risk factor for the development of skin cancer. And outdoor workers are exposed to 2 to 3 times more UV radiation from the sun than indoor workers. In the dermatology clinic, we define occupational exposure from ultraviolet radiation as greater than 20 hours per week outdoors. So how does ultraviolet radiation cause skin cancer? There are 3 types of ultraviolet radiation: UVA, UVB, and UVC. UVC does not penetrate the ozone layer. UVB penetrates the top layer of the skin called the epidermis, and UVA penetrates the second layer down deeper to the second layer of the skin called the dermis. The problem with ultraviolet radiation is that it changes the DNA in skin cells, so it damages the DNA in skin cells. And if enough damage accumulates within the skin cells, this growth of skin cells can become out of control, resulting in a skin cancer. So there are now multiple studies demonstrating higher rates of skin cancer in outdoor workers compared to those who work indoors. And there are a number of factors contributing to this, including outdoor workers having more UV exposure, having less protective measures, sun protective measures, and also often less education with regard to the risk of UV radiation and skin cancer. So let's move on and look at what we see in the dermatology clinic when outdoor workers present. So oftentimes we see outdoor workers present with both non-melanoma and melanoma skin cancers. Non-melanoma skin cancers include basal cell cancers and squamous cell cancers. These often present on sun-exposed sites. So that's the head and neck, including the ears, lips, and scalp, the anterior chest, and depending on the clothing they wear, forearms and legs. So what do we look out for? So really we're looking out for any new or changing mole or any new lump or spot on the skin that does not go away after a few weeks. So here are some non-melanoma skin cancers. We've got a squamous cell skin cancer on the left and a basal cell skin cancer on the right. So looking at the basal cell skin cancer, these often present as small lumps that are smooth, pearly and waxy initially, but they can eventually bleed or form an ulcer. The squamous cell skin cancers then often present as a firm lump with a scaly or crusted surface. They too can bleed or form an ulcer, and they may arise from pre-existing sun damage on the skin. Melanoma skin cancers then, if we ever see or if a patient notices any new or changing mole, we will always want to see the patient with regard to whether or not they have a melanoma skin cancer. The most common type of melanoma skin cancer in Ireland is the superficial spreading subtype. So what changes in a mole make us worry that this is a melanoma skin cancer? So I just have two pictures on the slide here, one on the left of a normal mole and one on the right of a melanoma skin cancer. So you can see in the normal mole, this is very symmetrical and the border is very regular and it's a uniform color and it's not very big. On the right, however, the melanoma skin cancer is very asymmetrical. It's a very regular, wobbly border. There are multiple colors within it and it is a much larger lesion. So we use the acronym ABCDE for potential changes in new or changing moles that alert us to the fact that this could be a melanoma skin cancer. But any mole that has changed, really people should be attending their doctor and getting that checked. So finally, what sun protection behaviours would we advise all outdoor workers to adopt in their everyday practice? So this is the SunSmart 5 S's, which help people to remember how to protect their skin when in the sun. So you want to slip on appropriate clothing, you want to slap on sunscreen, enough sunscreen on all sun exposed sites and reapply regularly. Make sure it's at least SPF 30. You want to slap on a wide brimmed hat. You want to seek shade in the peak hours of sun, so around midday, and you want to slide on sunglasses. The UV index is a really useful scale to help guide us on what sun protection to use at any time. So 1 to 2 is low. Anything above 3, you really should be using sun protection, and anything above 8 is very high or extreme, and you should be using all sun protection, but also considering staying out of the sun during the peak hours of the day. We would advise employers to encourage employees to cover up, keep clothing with sleeves down, wear wide brimmed hats, and reapply sunscreen regularly. And another really important thing for all workers is to educate and encourage employees to self-check their skin for any skin changes, and that should really be at least once per month. So here are my references, and I'd be delighted to take any questions, and thank you for your attention today.
Thank you, Dr. Rafferty. So our next speaker is Luka Bratek. Luka is an experienced occupational safety and health professional and currently serves as the OSH manager at a mid-sized construction company in Slovenia with a strong focus on safety in the construction sector. He's been active in European OSH initiatives and brings deep regional expertise, particularly in policy and cross-border collaboration. Luka also serves on the boards of several key organisations, including the European Network of Safety and Health Professional Organisations. So now I'm going to hand you over to Luka, who's going to speak about practical advice on protecting outdoor workers from the harmful effects of the sun.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the presentation Working Safer in the Sun. My name is Luka Bratek, and I'm proud to be part of today's webinar. Today, we're going to talk about the risk of working under solar radiation and how we can prevent heat and UV-related injuries, especially in outdoor environments. Let's start with some context. Skin cancer is the most common cancer worldwide, including Ireland. According to the World Health Organization, there are 2 to 3 million non-melanoma and around 100,000 melanoma skin cancers reported globally each year. In Ireland alone, over 11,000 new cases are diagnosed annually. These numbers are alarming and underline the importance of today's topic. Here are some key facts. UV rays can be deceptive. Up to 80% can penetrate clouds. This means cloudy days still carry significant risk. Alarmingly, 90% of skin cancer deaths could be prevented with proper UV exposure control. Just one sunburn every 2 years can triple your risk of melanoma. Still, some sun exposure is healthy. 5 to 15 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week, is enough to maintain adequate vitamin D levels during the summer. One research showed that the majority affected are men, and just under half those diagnosed with malignant melanoma linked to occupational exposure are under 65. Roughly 40% of malignant melanoma cases were found in construction workers. Other key sectors include agriculture, public administration, defense, and land transport. This is a wake-up call for outdoor occupations. Nottingham University extended this research and found that awareness about solar radiation risk in the construction sector is generally poor. 59% of construction workers had sunburn at least once in the past year. About 30% thought sunscreen wasn't needed on the cloudy days. Both managers and workers often don't prioritize sun safety, largely due to UK colder climate, a dangerous misconception. Who is at risk? It's not just construction workers. Engineers, farm workers, postal and traffic workers, police officers, rail and road maintenance crews, decorators, athletes. Anyone who works outdoors for extended period is exposed to solar radiation risk. The UV index has been generated internationally to help people understand the extent of UV exposure. Weather forecasts in many countries include a forecast of the UV index to guide public sun exposure. The index ranges from 1 to 11. 1 and 2 are considered low levels, and it is reasonably safe for people to be outside for prolonged periods of time. 3 to 5 are moderate drivers of UV exposure, and people should take care during the midday and to actually cover up during the exposure at noon. 6 to 7 on the index is considered to be high exposure, and people there should look for shade during the midday hours, cover up, and wear sunscreen. Very high levels are in the range of 8 to 10, and people should spend time in the shade between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., which is when the sun is at its highest and UV levels are again at the highest. People should cover up and use sunscreen. The index 11 is an extreme exposure, and people should avoid being outside in the midday hours. Let's look at a practical example of UV index in the island on a typical summer day. Even with summer cloud cover, the UV index remains high enough to cause harm. The strength of solar radiation, and thus the UV portion of solar radiation, changes throughout the day. Only the maximum daily value is usually published, taking actual cloud cover into account. The UV index depends mostly on cloud cover. On clear days during the warmer half of the year, the strength of UV solar radiation is highest around 1 p.m. summertime, when the path of the sun's rays through the atmosphere to the ground is shortest. The UV index also changes with geographical latitude. The closer we are to the equator, the stronger the UV radiation. The time of year also affects the UV index. It's highest in June and lowest in December. There's also the Fitzpatrick scale to help people identify their sensitivity to solar radiation. The scale ranges from 1, which is ivory, very pale skin, and usually people with red hair, up to 6, which is very dark brown skin. People with ivory are very sensitive to sunburn and should avoid UV exposure because they are at higher risk of developing skin cancer. People with very dark brown skin have naturally a high amount of melanin, which gives them a more natural protection against UV exposure. These people are more unlikely to develop skin cancer. However, when the exposure to UV is high or extremely high, they too should actually cover up, seek shade, and use sunscreen because they still can burn and develop cancer. UV exposure isn't just from direct sunlight. Reflections also matter. A sandy beach can reflect up to 25% of UV rays, water around 10, and fresno almost 100%. UV rays scatter more than visible light. Even in the shade, you are still exposed. Only thick, dense clouds offer real protection. Most of this UV dose comes around solar noon. So what can we do ourselves then? In the following, a few measures are presented. One of the best prevention methods is timing. If you can, avoid working between 11 a.m. Avoid working between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. when the sun is strongest. If possible, shift work to earlier hours and do heavier, more strenuous tasks before 11. Start slowly, especially in the beginning of the summer or a heat wave. Your body needs time to adjust to working in the hot, sunny environment. Gradually, increase your sun exposure over a few days to avoid shocking your system. Studies show that while older adults can acclimatize to heat, the rate and magnitude of adaptation is reduced compared to younger individuals. Where possible, do your task in the shade, whether that's sewing, assembling, or something else. Try to organize your work so that as many tasks as possible can be done in the shade. Use a natural shade or existing parts of construction site. It's simple yet effective method. Basement and ground floor parts of buildings under construction are usually also significantly colder. We need to pay close attention to hydration. Symptoms of dehydration include dry mouth, dizziness, and dark urine. Monitor your hydration levels by monitoring the color of your urine. It should be light yellow, not dark. In this table, you can see how much water you should consume every hour depending on physical activity and outside temperature. During moderate work, it is necessary to consume almost 1 liter of water every hour to stay hydrated. Avoid caffeine and alcohol. Caffeine and alcohol can dehydrate your body, making it harder to regulate your body temperature. Drink water or electrolyte-rich beverages. Here you can see some typical ways of keep fresh water on site. Water coolers, manual water dispensers, etc. Water coolers are very useful because they cool the water well, but they require electricity, which is sometimes difficult to provide on construction sites. When we can't provide electricity, we can use manual water dispenser. If we cannot use transport devices for carrying heavy water bottles to the location, we can use smaller bottles which are much lighter. Post the daily UV index somewhere visible, at the site entrance, in the break rooms, or near vending machines. This visual reminder helps workers take sun protection seriously. Likewise, monitor the heat index. It combines temperature and humidity. High values indicate risk of heat stress or even heat stroke, especially during physical labor. You can use various apps to help you. In this one from OSHA and NIOSH, you can see the difference for heat index exposure at different temperatures and humidity. High humidity impairs the ability to tolerate heat. For example, here you can see the heat index increases at the same temperature of 32 degrees and different humidity levels. The most exposed areas of the body are head and neck. Protect them with proper headgear. Wide brims or neck flaps make a big difference. New designs even offer built-in cooling features. Here we can see a ventilated helmet, cooling pads for the head and neck. Dress for the heat. The right clothes can help keep you cool and protect you from the sun. Wear loose, light, and airy clothing that covers as much skin as possible. Use shirts with collar. Choose clothing that blocks UV rays, like certified fabrics that offer UPF. This acts like reliable sunblock for your skin. For example, UPF 40 plus clothes blocks over 95% of UVA and UVB radiation. And a thin, white-collared t-shirt with loose fittings only UPF around 5 to 10. That's only about 20% UV protection. Keep your body temperature down. Body cooling is another key step, whether it's by using cool packs, damp clothes, etc. Some work by being soaked in the water, others filled with water, and others kept in refrigerators before use. I tried a few of them and they work pretty well. Of course, they also have their drawbacks. An extra layer of clothing can be uncomfortable in the heat. Also, water in the clothing increases the weight of the clothing in the beginning. Those clothes that are pre-soaked in the water can wet the clothes underneath your already. The clothes that are pre-soaked in the water can wet the clothes underneath. The suit may have built-in fans or portable fan may be placed on or under the suit. Eyes are also vulnerable. Use safety sunglasses that offer certified UV protection. Here is some of my experience from a construction site. When I require workers to wear safety glasses due to the risk of something getting into their eyes, there are always complaints that glasses are uncomfortable, that wearing the glasses gives them headache, etc. However, in the summer, when the sun is shining, the same workers who previously refused to wear safety glasses beg me for sunglasses. They received the exact same model of glasses, just with darker lenses, and no one can ever complain about headaches or that they are uncomfortable. Regular breaks are vital during work in a hot environment. The work-rest ratios in this chart are designed to help minimize the risk of heat-related illness during moderate work under different thermal load categories. In the table, you can see that the restrictions start at 29 degrees, when the first additional breaks are needed. At 34 degrees and above, for every 20 minutes of work, a 40-minute break is needed to allow the body to recover. Rest in shaded or cooled areas to allow the body to recover. Use air-conditioned work environment for breaks if you can, or at least shaded places. The most effective are short and frequent breaks in cooled rooms, the temperature of which should not be so low that a sudden temperature change would endanger health. The difference between the outside and inside temperature should not be more than 7 degrees. Encourage workers to take off the PPE, like hard hats, gloves, and vests, during rest when it's safe to do so. Cool down with a portable fan. Portable fan can help regulate body temperature in hot, still air. You can keep a small battery-powered fan with you during the breaks. Use lightweight PPE with good ventilation. Mesh materials or PPE designed for hot environments can reduce the heat load on the body. Sometimes cheap is better than expensive. Lightweight mesh vests are much less hot and more breathable than higher quality ones. Rotate workers to prevent overexposure. Alternate between heavy and light tasks to avoid fatigue and overheating. Use the buddy system. Colleagues can watch for early signs of dehydration, heat stress, or sunburn, and react faster if someone shows symptoms and need help. Encourage regular skin checks, both through cell examination and medical screenings. Early detection of skin damage saves lives. Diet also plays a role. Light nutrition meals reduce heat stress and help maintain hydration. Avoid heavy or greasy food during hot workdays. Mist cooling is an option for reducing outdoor temperatures, especially in environments where traditional air conditioning isn't possible. Let's look at how it works and when it's most effective. It only has noteworthy effects at starting temperatures of around 32 degrees, with humidity below 50% and only a light wind. Mist cooling can reduce the felt temperature by up to 6 degrees, typically around 2 to 3 degrees in real conditions. The effect improves as temperature rises and humidity drops, so the hotter and drier the environment, the more noticeable the cooling. That said, it does increase the humidity by around 10 to 20%, so it's important to avoid using mist systems indoors. Mist systems need clean water to avoid clogging and health risk. They should be used only when people are present to avoid unnecessary humidity buildup. Just 2 minutes of use is often enough to noticeably cool down an area. People typically experience a sense of improved comfort within 5 minutes, and the slight increase in humidity is generally well tolerated over short periods. So overall, mist cooling is a useful tool in outdoor environments, particularly for rest areas, construction sites, outdoor events, and especially during heat waves. Sunscreen is intentionally left at the end of the list due to bad experience with it. Workers don't want to use it because of the greasy hands they get, excessive sweating they don't apply it enough. Also, don't forget on the lips, which are prone to sunburn and dryness. Use lip balm with SPF to protect your lips from chapping and burning. Recognize the signs of heat exhaustion and stroke, dizziness, nausea, cramps, confusion. Act quickly. Cool the person down and seek medical help if needed. If someone shows signs of heat stress, having a cool room available could make the difference between recovery and serious illness. It is an essential part of site safety. Thank you for your attention. Please remember, sun safety isn't just for beaches. It's a critical part of workplace health. Let's take it seriously and protect ourselves and our teams.
Thank you, Luca. So our next speaker is Paula Voisa. Paula is a senior business partner, HR, talent acquisition, and ED&I at Glenveagh, where she leads initiatives in talent acquisition, performance management, employee engagement, ED&I, and well-being. And with over 15 years of experience in HR, her areas of interest include workforce planning, diversity and inclusion, onboarding, and enhancing employer branding to attract top talent. So now I'm going to hand you over to Paula, who's going to take us through a case study on sun protection for outdoor workers.
Hello, I'm Paula Voisa and I am Senior Business Partner for HR, Talent Acquisition and ED&I at Glenveagh. Today I'd like to give you a brief run through of our SunSmart campaign that we run annually. Firstly, a little bit about us. We are one of Ireland's leading home builders and we delivered 2,400 homes across the country in 2024. Our vision is that everyone should have the opportunity to access great value, high quality homes in flourishing communities across Ireland. We build sustainable homes in sustainable communities and we help people create sustainable careers with us. We employ approximately 500 people across our head office in Maynooth, County Kildare, our 23 construction sites across the country, and our 2 manufacturing facilities, NUA Manufacturing. Our Building Better strategy focuses on creating these high-quality sustainable homes in thriving Irish communities with a commitment to delivering long-term value for our shareholders. Our strategy centres on 5 strategic priorities: placing the customer first, valuing developing our colleagues, driving operational excellence, embracing innovation, and creating sustainable and thriving places. These priorities are supported by action-oriented pillars and underpinned by specific projects, all while prioritising our ESG initiatives. This holistic approach ensures we not only meet the needs of our customers, but also create a workplace culture that values operational excellence and employee empowerment and well-being. Our people strategy, our policies and procedures align with this, with our 3 key pillars being talent, culture, and safety. At Glenveagh, we understand that the health and well-being of our employees is paramount in order for us to achieve our aims. Our commitment to fostering an inclusive workplace culture is reflected in our proactive initiatives and policies. We aim to create an environment that supports physical and mental well-being, ensuring that all team members feel valued and equipped to thrive in their roles. We recognise the importance of taking this proactive approach, and we are committed to creating an open and inclusive workplace culture through implementing initiatives and policies underpinned by workplace practices and support services for managers and all team members. Our aim is to sustain and continuously develop our workplace as one which promotes and supports the physical and mental well-being of all of our employees. Our well-being strategy is structured around 4 key themes: physical environment, psychosocial environment, personal health resources, and community. In order to develop this strategy, we took into account the diverse needs of our workforce in terms of roles undertaken, age group, and locations in which they operate. We had a number of challenges around this, but we addressed them through creating a strategy and plan which supported the needs of all employees across the various different locations. Our main aims are to create a physically safe and pleasant place to work, achieve a healthy balance, and give people personal health resources to improve their health and well-being both in and outside of work. In terms of the SunSmart campaign, which we launch in early May each year, in 2024, this reached approximately 240 of our site-based employees on any given day, approximately 1,800 subcontractors on our sites daily, across those 23 sites. And since the beginning of the campaign around 5 years ago, we've supplied close to 1,000 bottles of sun cream onto our sites. The sun cream is available on demand in dispensers that are permanent fixtures on the sites themselves. The campaign itself is launched in early May through a number of different channels. There are toolbox talks delivered on all of our sites by our EHS team, both to our employees and to the subcontractors. There's an email campaign which reaches both employees both on site and in the office, giving them information about how to work safely in the sun, how to apply sunscreen, how frequently, and what type of sunscreen to apply. We have educational talks on an annual basis delivered by a GP or medical professional on spotting the signs and symptoms of skin cancer and giving tips on how to stay safe in the sun. There are table tents erected across all of the sites and offices, so everybody has a visual reminder of the guidelines as well on how to be sun smart. On the sites, there is a daily UV index scale, which is monitored and updated daily. There's a daily weather board and multiple touch points across the site to keep people informed as to the best way to stay safe in the sun. Ultimately, we measure any campaign by key outcomes. The well-being strategy is measured by both survey metrics and also absenteeism rates. Looking at key outcomes from a feedback perspective, 83.5% of our employees agree that sufficient resources are available for health and safety here. That's up 14% in 18 months. 88.5% of people agreed that they can get the equipment they need to follow health and safety procedures. Again, that's an increase over 18 months of just over 6%. Our overall score on the safety climate tool is 3.99, bringing us into the 95th percentile. And in our employee engagement survey, Great Place to Work, 89% of our employees agree that this is a physically safe place to work. Any wellbeing campaign needs to have measurable criteria attached to it, and we're very pleased with the success rate of this campaign to date. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. So next we're delighted to have James Brown. James is a patient advocate for the 2025 SunSmart campaign and is raising awareness of the importance of skin protection. The first 25 years of James' working life was spent working outdoors. So now I'm going to hand you over to James, who has kindly agreed to talk to us about his personal skin cancer journey.
Hi, my name is James Brown and I'm from Kingscourt in County Cavan. My story starts back in the winter of 2019 when I scratched a mole that I had on my back. This mole I had for years. During the night, it suddenly started to bleed and became sore. I asked my wife to have a look at it. This was about 2 to 3 weeks later, and I left it too long because I thought, sure, I'm a man and it'll heal itself. My wife said that I needed to go to the doctor, which I did in January. 2 weeks later, I had arrived at Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital, which was the start of February, and they removed my mole. It was sent to the lab for testing. This did not take long. 10 days later, the result came back and it was melanoma skin cancer. And I was being referred to Beaumont Hospital to see a specialist. In late February, early March of 2020, I saw a plastic surgeon, and from this conversation and scans I had in between, it was decided to remove all my lymph nodes from my left armpit. They also took a large diameter of skin around the melanoma site and did a skin graft for my left leg. At the end of March, early April, this operation was done, and it was successful. I returned to work within 6 weeks after some great care from Beaumont Hospital, and not to forget my wife, who made sure I stayed infection-free. Unfortunately, it was discovered that my other armpit also had some infection, and because I made such a good recovery, it was offered to me to take all my lymph nodes from my right armpit. This operation was completed in May, and it took a little longer to recover, but it did. Then it was off to oncology, where I started immunotherapy, but unfortunately this only lasted 6 months as miniature melanomas came up on my back and on some scans. So it was decided to stop the immunotherapy and start me on tablets, which was the only course of treatment left to me. Before starting, the consultant said that the hardest thing about the tablets is the first 3 months and my body getting used to them. This is a short version of my story, and for the last nearly 5 years I am in remission. My diagnosis is stage 4 incurable skin cancer, but it's treatable with the tablets. And trust me when I tell you, there was a lot of pain both physically and mentally. The things I do to look after myself include checking the UV ray. I have an app on my phone which tells me the strength of the sun each day, and I'm aware of what clothes I wear each day. Finally, I went to Australia last year to see my son and his partner, and I purchased a great wide-brimmed hat for my head. My message to anyone is to be SunSmart and protect your skin even at home, as it's the same sun here as it is abroad. Contact a doctor if you notice any change, no matter how small you think they are.
Thanks very much to James for sharing his story and that very important message with us. So our final speaker today is Maria McHenry. Maria is a Cancer Prevention Officer with the HSE's National Cancer Control Programme and coordinates the implementation of the National Skin Cancer Prevention Plan. So now I'll hand you over to Maria, who will provide an overview of resources and supports for outdoor workers.
Thanks, Breda. I'm just going to share my slides now quickly. And I'll make that full screen. Okay, so I'm just going to give you just some background information first before I run through the resources and supports available for outdoor worker organisations and outdoor workers themselves. So the National Skin Cancer Prevention Plan is a second national plan. So this is the second one. It was launched in 2023 and it runs to the end of 2026. So the aim of the plan, I suppose, is to increase awareness of skin cancer prevention behaviours, to reduce the risk of skin cancer being developed, as it is the most common cancer in Ireland, and it is rapidly growing, and the number of people diagnosed with skin cancer is on the increase. So the plan looks to increase awareness of skin cancer prevention, improve adoption of skin cancer prevention behaviours, and then also monitor change and evaluate the plan's effectiveness. So we're doing this through education, through public awareness and behavioural change campaigns such as the SunSmart campaign, through environmental measures, and also looking at policy change. So the skin cancer prevention messaging, I suppose, it's for everyone, but there is certain at-risk groups we're specifically targeting and who are named out in the plan. So those include children aged 0 to 12, adolescents and young people 13 to 24 years, outdoor workers, sport, recreation and tourism, and then sunbed users. So for the purpose of today, we're going to be focusing on outdoor workers. So I suppose the reason why they're specifically named out within the plan is they're exposed 2 to 3 times more UV radiation than indoor workers, which puts them at increased risk of developing skin cancer. And we know that employers that adopt comprehensive approaches to occupational sun protection for their employees can be an effective way to increase sun protection behaviours, which in turn reduces skin cancer rates in the outdoor worker industry. So within the plan, you can see there on the right-hand side, there is a number of key actions that are called out within the plan. So I suppose one of those is to continue to identify and pursue opportunities to raise awareness of UV risk and skin cancer prevention among outdoor workers through the development of training and education. So this is why I suppose on an annual basis we run either webinars or in-person events for outdoor workers. So we're going to do these annually, and I suppose if anyone has any suggestions on areas you would like covered or suggestions on maybe speakers that you would like to see, do let us know, as it is something we run on an annual basis. So under the legislation currently, under the Safety, Health and Welfare at Work Act 2005, employers must identify hazards in their workplace, assess the risk and eliminate or reduce the control the risk. So radiation is specifically named out as part of that, so that would include UV radiation. So it is really important to, I suppose, know what's covered in the legislation and what is really important for employers to do for their employees. So then when it comes to, I suppose, key evidence on what works for UV protection for workers in the workplace, we know that it's not just one thing that will work. So there is, I suppose, a number of organisations that might just annually support the SunSmart campaign, might have a webinar or highlight the importance of sun protection in a newsletter. I suppose that alone isn't enough. That's going to change the behaviours and improve the adoption of sun protection behaviours within the outdoor workers. I suppose it's a multi-pronged approach. So the educational side of things is very important. That would include having a webinar, an information talk, having a guest speaker come in, displaying posters, brochures, leaflets for staff. That's really important. That's just one part of it though. So it's also really important to look at environmental approaches. So are you providing sunscreen for staff? Do they require sunscreen? And then also looking at shade. So if someone is outdoors, say working, for example, on the roads, when they're taking their break, is there somewhere for them to sit in the shade, or are they out in direct sunlight every day? I suppose that would work across a number of outdoor workers. So trying to, I suppose, assess what is currently available to them, and where approaches and improvements could be made. UV risk assessments are really, really important, and some protection policies. So we have a number of resources developed, which we'll run through in a few minutes, but I suppose doing those is really important. It shows that UV protection is, I suppose, a key priority within the organisation as well. And then activities. So activities that are designed to influence knowledge, attitudes and behaviour of workers is important. So that includes role modelling. So having senior management, health and safety officers taking sun protection as a really important health and safety concern. So if there is a wide brim task provided for staff, that the management are wearing them and the senior staff are wearing them, because if staff see management taking it seriously and are wearing them, they're more likely to. Same when it comes to sunscreen. If someone is seeing all their colleagues, management, putting on sunscreen, reapplying it throughout the day, they're more likely to do that as well if it's the norm within the organisation. So we've developed a number of resources. So we have a group risk assessment tool, and we also have a personal risk assessment tool. So this will assess if there is a risk of hazardous levels of exposure to UV radiation. So I suppose it's designed to help you determine where the greatest risk of UV radiation is in your workplace, who is at greatest risk, what sun safety control measures are currently in place, and then also what changes can be made. So making an action plan of what changes can be made. We know that there's some outdoor workers who work on by themselves, such as farmers. So we have developed two versions. So one is a personal one and a group one. We also developed a toolbox talk for outdoor workers. So I suppose this provides basic information for outdoor workers about the health risks when it comes to UV radiation exposure and the importance of protecting their skin and eyes from UV radiation. So the toolbox talk pack includes a educational video, which is 10 minutes long. There's also a patient advocate video included in that, which is a further 3 minutes. So the video looks at UV radiation, looks at skin cancer, steps outdoor workers can take to reduce their risk of skin cancer, and also discusses the early signs and symptoms of skin cancer and what to look out for and what to do, like if you notice any changes, when to seek help. There is worksheets, there's posters, and there's an FAQ sheet included. So it is a facilitator pack. So I suppose it's designed for someone in the organisation to run this toolbox talk for their staff. I suppose we were inundated with requests for information talks, and I suppose we just wouldn't have capacity to do all of the requests that we receive. So there is a pack for the facilitator to, I suppose, give them some key background information knowledge as well, that they can take it on. So if you do want to order a hard copy or digital version, you can order it from prevention@cancercontrol.ie. And this is just a list of all the other resources that we've developed over the years. So these resources have been developed with key outdoor worker organisations. So for example, we've had the likes of our the Constructionist Federation, Chagas, we've had Health and Safety Authority, On Post, just to name a few. There's lots of other organisations and groups who've been involved in developing these resources, but it's really important to get feedback on what is required, what's needed, and I suppose how it's presented as well. So we have a sample sun protection policy and a checklist. We have an infographic poster for outdoor workers. As I mentioned, we have the risk assessments, we have audit tools, a framework. We have sample terms of reference. We have a survey. So this is a sample survey that you can use to kind of get baseline information on what the current awareness, knowledge and behaviours are of staff. So if you want to maybe do some education pieces with staff, it's good to know maybe what their level of awareness and knowledge is with certain behaviours already before you start that. So that's really useful. We have videos, we have webinars, patient stories, and we have posters and leaflets. And sorry, just to mention as well, all of these resources are up on hsc.ie/skin cancer prevention, so you can download them all from there. We have our annual SunSmart campaign, so that runs from April to September every year. I'm sure most of you are aware of it at this stage. And I suppose the aim of the campaign is to increase awareness of steps we can all take to protect our skin from the sun and reduce our risk of skin cancer. We have a partner pack which you can order from prevention@cancercontrol.ie, and we have some general information on hsc.ie/SunSmart. There is a big focus for outdoor workers this year as part of the campaign because we received some funding from the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine. So we have posters, leaflets and social media assets and videos developed for farmers, as well as a SunSmart Toolbox talk for farmers. So we're doing, I suppose, a number of initiatives. We've also partnered with Board BIA this year, so they're rolling out the SunSmart messaging. We're talking to Teagasc as well about potentially having some sun protection included in some of their agriculture courses, and then our regional cancer prevention officers are, I suppose, out on the ground regionally engaging with farmers and groups at agriculture events such as the marts and agricultural shows throughout the 2025 SunSmart campaign. This just gives you an overview of where you can find further information. We have all of our resources are free to download or order from healthpromotion.ie. You can just choose cancer from the drop-down menu. We have our YouTube channel, which hosts all of the previous webinars that we have recorded, as well as patient videos, all available there. And then just lastly, we have our regional cancer prevention officers in different parts of the country. So you can see there the names of each of the cancer prevention officers, the areas that they cover. So if you don't see maybe where areas where there's no senior health promotion improvement officer in cancer prevention in your area, you can just contact myself at prevention@cancercontrol.ie. But yeah, we have Caroline Murray who covers Mayo, Galway, Roscommon. We have Bernadette Mullins who covers Midwest, Shirley O'Shea who covers Cork Kerry. We have Anne-Marie Lawler who covers Dublin Southeast, so that's Carlow, Kilkenny, South Tip, Waterford, Wexford, Dublin South, Wicklow, Lisa O'Donnell who covers Dublin North City and County. So I will send around all of those details as well following today's webinar, as well as the recordings. So we'll be happy to take any questions as part of the panel discussion, and thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much, Maria. So now it's time for our panel discussion. So the first question that I have here that has come in is for Siobhan. So the first question is, how often should people check their moles for changes?
So we'd always recommend that people check their skin once a month. So we often advise our patients in the clinic to choose either the first day of the month or the last day of the month. Usually the first is easiest, and check once a month all of your skin and get used to what your skin looks like.
Yeah, thanks, Siobhan. So another question here is for Luca. So Luca, it says, what type of surfaces is UV radiation reflected off of, and are there certain surfaces that outdoor workers should be aware of?
Hello again. Of course, UV radiation can be reflected from various surfaces, so you should be aware of the water and snow. They can reflect up to 80%, and there is sand and concrete. They can reflect up to 25%, and also grass and soil. They reflect less, but still around 5% can be reflected back. So workers near water, light-colored buildings, glass, concrete, or snow face increased risks even in the shade. So you should wear your sunscreen, protective gear, and remember that you still can be reached from reflection from below or from the side.
Okay, thanks, Luca. It's important that people are aware of that. I think it might be one that people aren't necessarily that aware of. I have a question here for Paula. So Paula, with your employee engagement survey, how often do you send it out, and does that help you with understanding the health and safety topics that staff would like to see available in Glenveigh?
Thanks for the question. We have a number of touch points around health and safety. So the employee engagement survey is one. That's an annual survey that is standardized questions, but also free text where people can submit questions, comments, feedback on any topic around employment with us, including health and safety. We also run since 2023 biannually the Safety Climate Tool Survey, so that obviously specifically health and safety focused. And then alongside that, there's ongoing, we have a suggestion scheme where we would invite people to submit suggestions or comments on anything related to the workplace. That's run by our Great Place to Work committee on an ongoing basis. So there's a number of ways in which people can feedback to us around certain initiatives, both specifically and just generally.
Thanks, Paula. A question here from Maria. Who enforces the health and safety legislation in the workplace?
Yeah, so I suppose most people would be aware of the Health and Safety Authority. So they would enforce the health and safety legislation in the workplace. And they partner with the NCCP and the Skin Cancer Prevention, that's the plan. So they are named in a number of the actions within the plan. So we would link in with them quite regularly. And I will send around, following today's webinar, just links to different resources and information. I'll also include a link to the Health and Safety Authority website because they have risk assessments available on their website as well, and a number of useful resources. So I'll link that when I send that around today.
Thanks, Maria. Another question for Siobhan. What type of outdoor worker professions do you see coming into dermatology clinic with suspicious molds?
Yeah, so we see a lot of outdoor workers coming through our skin cancer clinics referred from GPs. So that would, of course, include construction workers, but also includes a lot of other outdoor workers, like workers in the postal service, workers working the haulage service, so truck drivers or any other workers working in transport, and also professional sports people, people who have spent a lot of time outdoors, and their job is similarly a huge number of hours spent outdoors.
Okay, thanks, Siobhan. Another question for Luca. For outdoor workers who spend a lot of their day in a vehicle, are they at risk of UV radiation exposure, and do you have any advice for them?
So especially UVA rays can penetrate most car windows, especially side windows, and you should be careful if you have open windows or sunroofs. So that way UV rays can reach you even through the windows. So truck drivers, delivery personnel, delivery workers often develop more sun damage on the right side of their face and their arms due to sun exposure through their driver's windows. So to reduce risk, you should use UV blocking window film if you can, wear sunscreen or protective clothing, and of course wear UV protective sunglasses.
Right, thanks, Luca. And one more for Paula. So Paula, when you made sunscreen available for staff, was there any feedback from the staff on the type of sunscreen that was available?
Again, feedback is always welcomed through the channels that I mentioned previously, but we selected it based on a number of factors, including, its dermatological suitability, UVA protection, 4-star rating, and high factor. But not only that, but also to make sure it was something that was available. So it is something that all of our sites can just order as a normal standard item. So it needed to be something that was kept in stock by our suppliers. So what we offer out is a high quality, readily available product that's available to order by the sites on demand, not just throughout the summer, but year round. We obviously actively promote it at the start of the summer, but the dispensers are fixed, they're there all year, and the sunscreen can be ordered all year. But I suppose, yeah, in terms of feedback, we haven't received anything negative. People are delighted it's there and it's available to them. And had there been feedback to the contrary, we would have acted on it.
Okay, so that's great to hear, Paula. So thanks to everybody who submitted questions. So that brings today's webinar to a close. Thank you all for your attention, and thanks again to all of our speakers. The recording and the details of resources will be forwarded to everybody who registered, as will the post-webinar survey. And as I said earlier, your feedback is really valuable, so we'd really appreciate if you could take some time to complete that. Thank you.